I don't like recess. I don't like PE. I really don't like social studies. And I don't like iPads. But most of all, I hate Camelot and Mr. Brainstad. All hail the Dark Knight.
Ha 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 ha! That's right, Bobby. Your mind is mine, and it was all too easy to manipulate. Ha ha ha!
Why, hello there, and welcome to Social Studies in a Snap. Many of you are closing in on becoming Knights of Social Studies, and we'll get even closer today as we take a look at Mr. Brainstad's standards on the U.S. government. Today, we'll travel back in time to interview the father of the Constitution, Mr. James Madison, to find out how it was written and passed, and how our government works today. Let's travel back to 1792, after the Constitution and the Bill of Rights have been adopted. Well, Mr. Madison, hello there. Would you be willing to tell these future Knights of Social Studies how the Constitution was written and passed?
Why, certainly. I'd be delighted. When the 56 delegates and I went to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in May of 1787, the group initially intended to tweak the Articles of Confederation. But we ended up creating a new Constitution, and I, representing Virginia, became the chief recorder of information. In other words, I took a lot of notes. I had helped develop Virginia's Constitution 11 years prior, and it was my Virginia Plan that served as the basis for debate in the development of the U.S. Constitution. I argued strongly for a strong central government that would unify the country. The convention delegates met secretly throughout the summer and finally signed the proposed U.S. Constitution on September 17th, 1787. However, in order for the Constitution to become the highest law by which all Americans abided, 2/3 of the 13 states had to ratify, in other words, approve, it individually, and it was sent to them for this purpose on September 28th. I campaigned for the ratification of the Constitution by co-authoring a series of essays with guys named John Jay and Alexander Hamilton, and these essays appeared in various New York newspapers and then circulated around the states. There were 85 essays in all, and I wrote 29 of them, and together they are known as the Federalist Papers. My important contribution to the overall creation of the Constitution earned me the nickname the Father of the Constitution later in my life. On June 21st, 1788, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify the new Constitution, and that was enough to make the Constitution the law of the land. But that wasn't all. I went on to strengthen the Constitution even further. Do you know how? Well, in 1789, as a member of the newly created U.S. House of Representatives, I introduced the first amendments or additions to the Constitution. Today they are known as the Bill of Rights. The ratification of the Constitution by some states was based on the expectation that the Constitution would be changed by amendments such as these. I originally drafted 19 amendments, 12 of which my colleagues in Congress passed on to the states for their approval. And on December 15th, 1791, 10 had been ratified by enough states to become part of the Constitution. These amendments guarantee our individual rights as citizens, such as the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the freedom of the press, which all make up our First Amendment.
Wow, that's so cool! You played such a pivotal role in setting up our government. And it's so awesome how the framers of the Constitution had the foresight to see that maybe in the future that our Constitution would need to be changed with amendments. Can you tell these future Knights of Social Studies how the Constitution sets up our government today?
We, the delegates of the Constitutional Convention, also wanted to divide power within the federal government. We did not want these powers to be controlled by just one man or one group. The delegates were afraid that if a small group received too much power, the United States would wind up under the rule of another dictator or tyrant, just like we had with King George of Great Britain. To avoid the risk of dictatorship or tyranny, the group divided the new government into 3 parts or branches: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. The executive branch is headed by the president. The president carries out federal laws and recommends new ones. He directs national defense and foreign policy with other countries, and performs ceremonial duties as our head of state. The powers he has, or she has, include directing government, commanding the armed forces, dealing with international powers, and acting as our chief law enforcement officer, and has the power of vetoing laws. The legislative branch is headed by Congress, which includes the House of Representatives and the Senate. The main task of these 2 bodies is to make the laws. Its powers include passing laws, originating spending bills in the House, impeaching officials in the Senate, and approving treaties, also in the Senate. Finally, there is the judicial branch of government. They are headed by the Supreme Court. Its powers include interpreting the Constitution, of course, and reviewing laws and deciding cases involving states' rights.
So, what is to stop one branch from becoming too powerful? Like, what would happen if the legislative branch made some crazy law that made them in charge of the country?
By creating 3 branches of government, we delegates built a checks and balance system into the Constitution. This system was built so that no one branch of our government could become too powerful. Each branch is restrained by the other 2 in several ways. For example, the President may veto a law passed by Congress. Congress can override that veto with a vote of 2/3 of both houses. Another example is that the Supreme Court may check Congress by declaring a law unconstitutional. The power is balanced by the fact that members of the Supreme Court are appointed by the President. Those appointments have to be approved by Congress. So you see, each branch has the ability to limit the power of the other branches.
So does the national government have our only governments? What about state and local governments?
Each state has its own constitution that runs the laws of the state that are not covered by our federal government. The 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states that all powers not given to the federal government are reserved or given to the states and to the people. All the states' governments are modeled after the federal government. They each have 3 branches of government, including the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. State and local governments handle a lot of the systems that we use and come into contact with on a daily basis. These include schools, police departments, fire departments, libraries, parks, and more.
Thank you for your time and talents, Mr. Madison, and thank you for making such a wonderful rule book for how our country works. And the best of luck to you when you become the 4th President of the United States.
Prodigious! That's marvelous news that I'll become president. I shall fulfill the duties to the best of my capabilities.
Oops! I've really got to stop giving away the future on these visits. Oh, one last question for you, Mr. Madison. How short are you really?
I'm 5'4". Not that that's any of your business. Good day, sir.
Well, there you have it, future Knights of Social Studies. Get it? Got it? Good. Until next time, adios.